Welcome to the Becoming Aware podcast, where I, Genevieve Faulkner, share what I'm becoming aware of.
Hello and welcome to the Becoming Aware podcast. My name is Genevieve Faulkner, your host, and if you're watching this on YouTube, hi. So today I wanted to talk about timeline jumping. So this is something that I believe that we all have the ability to do, but I think that some of us can do it consciously and intentionally, and then I think that there's others of us that perhaps don't realize that we're doing it. I think that this is something that we have the ability to master if we want to kind of quantum leap. And I also think that sometimes there are timeline jumps encoded into the experience that we're choosing to experience in the lifetime that we're in, based upon what it is that our being has chosen before we got here. Not that it is before we got here because everything's kind of happening at once. So this is a very non-linear conversation. I'm hoping that, it will make sense and that I can communicate what I know with ease. But yeah, I do believe, as I've mentioned before, we are the choosers of the reality that we get born into. We choose our family, we choose the timing that we choose to be born, and that connects us to the astrology of that time, which can influence what we create, dependent on how much we're willing to embody the being that we are, that is beyond the timeline that we're functioning in. So I think that there is also the timelines jumps that we go through en masse. So as a planet or as a group of people, I am aware last year, I think it was last year or the year before, whenever Trump got into power, I was very much aware of a different future then for the planet. And I was very surprised when he got in. And when I asked questions about it, I was aware of a different timeline. So whether or not like people in power have the ability to manipulate the timelines that we are kind of like functioning from en masse, that's a question, to ponder, maybe, or it's one that I pondered. But yeah, I know that within astrology, we have eclipses that are often paired, and within that pairing, there is often portals that get opened up that allow us to move into a different reality or timeline or dimension. And given the timing, you might be going through a timeline jump right now. So right before you go through a timeline jump, what can occur sometimes is a lot of intensity, because everything that you've held on to that has from the past related to the timeline that you've been on cannot go with you into the new timeline, because the timeline that you leap into has a different past point to get you to that present moment, right? So the past no longer exists in the same way. So what occurs before you make that leap is this intensity that it's almost like everything being shaken out of you, right? Or reality shaking. It's a little bit like giving birth. In transition, there's a lot of shaking, a lot of intensity as that portal is open to assist the baby to move through dimensions. And so it's very similar. It can feel very like almost difficult. It can feel like you're experiencing everything horrible from the past all at once. It can feel like you're stuck in the same place. There can be just a lot of emotional energy that can come up, and none of that is wrong. So if you've just gone through in the last month or two that kind of experience, it may be because you are timeline jumping. You are about to or have just moved into a completely different space for yourself. Now, as I mentioned, in that timeline or in that space, the past is different. And so after you kind of like go through that intensity, there can be this kind of experience of everything expanding. And it can be a little destabilizing. It can be a little dizzying and confusing if you aren't aware of the process that you were going through, because you are no longer the same person. A lot of people on this planet can get confused with the experience that they've had and who they actually are as a being. So they can think that they are their experience. They can think that they are their past. And so when all of a sudden that no longer exists and you're in this different kind of like avatar or this different version of you, it can feel confusing, and you won't remember the past in the same way, because all of the emotional energy that was connected to the experiences that you had will have shifted out of your world. So it feels less solid, which can create memory gaps, right? And so just be aware that if you all of a sudden feel like you can't connect to things in the past like you could, or you can't remember things in the way that you used to, it doesn't mean that you've got Alzheimer's or dementia. It may actually be that you've just gone through a timeline leap. So you can ask yourself, like, have I just gone through some sort of leap? What's actually occurring here that I haven't acknowledged can assist you to kind of get the awareness to be able to have ease. Because when you're not acknowledging what's occurred, that's where the difficulty can be created, because then you assume that you're functioning from the old timeline and nothing kind of like works in the same way then, because that's almost like anchoring yourself and creating this kind of like distortion where it's kind of like living two different realities at once. And so nothing really works. So the other thing that can happen when you're going through this timeline leap right before it is that not everyone is going onto the same timeline that you're on, right? So there can be, as I mentioned, the eclipse happens for everyone at the same time, yet the timeline portals might be slightly different for everybody. There might be one that's like us en masse, that we are shifting globally, but there can also be all of these different like wormholes opening up to different dimensions and realities. And so not everyone's dimension or timeline is going to be the same. And so the relationships shift as well. So the people in your life that are not necessarily desiring to have the experience that you're about to have may not be as significant in this next timeline. So there can be, right before you have these jumps, relationships break up, friendships disappear, jobs, all of a sudden gone, right? And then after you've had the leap, there can be new people showing up. There can be new possibilities, some sort of new creative idea, because then you're in the energy and the space to be able to embody who you are in that next dimension. When you're not acknowledging the leap, you will often create issues with your body, because your body's still like, if you're not acknowledging something has occurred, you're functioning in the old reality, and your body can get stuck in that old timeline instead of it kind of functioning in the new timeline. So it's important to acknowledge these things so that you don't get stuck, or that your body doesn't end up suffering something as a result of, you not being fully aware of the process that you've just gone through. So just asking yourself the question and acknowledging if there's lightness with regards to, have I just gone through a timeline jump? Oh, okay, that's what's occurred. That's why people are leaving my life. Okay, that's okay then, because if you're going into the wrongness of any of the change that's occurred, that's also where you will be creating this anchoring to a different reality or a different timeline, and not embodying the full experience of what the new timeline is can gift you, right? You are coming onto this new timeline because it's something that's more in alignment with the being that you are and what it desires to experience in this lifetime. And so there is no need to go into distrust or resist, because you're being the part of you that is so beyond the mind, like that often isn't fully acknowledged by people. Like that is the part that is so connected to the universe. It is all knowing. Like it is very much like in agreement with this process, or it wouldn't occur. Okay. So there is no need to resist it, because, if you go into the resistance or feeling like you've got to control the process, that's where you actually begin to create splitting with your own energy and with your being. And so that's where you end up kind of like getting lost in the lower kind of dimensions, like you just being kind of like the avatar in the game instead of embodying the energy of your being and that power and that awareness and that connection with the universe that allows you to know that no matter what like you experience, you've got it, right? You've got you've got the universe. Everything is working in your favor. Everything is happening for your growth and expansion. Like I do believe that most of the time when we do timeline jump, we are timeline jumping for that reason. There is something greater possible. There is something more that our being desires. Is it possible that there are, people? Just one sec. Sorry, I'm waiting for my Uber. So is it possible that there are people that, in positions of power that know how to use technology to create timeline leaps in a way that may be negative? Look, I think that it's possible. I do think that it's possible. But even if that is occurring, I believe that when we acknowledge the power of our being and allow ourselves to have no separation with that, I don't believe that anything that is happening en masse has the ability to control us in the same way. So I think that acknowledgement and awareness of the process that you're in and the growth that you're having on the journey is key to being able to, use the experience to your advantage. So I'm wondering if there is anything else that I need to mention with regards to all of this. So if there is any of you that kind of like have got a little bit triggered with regards to me saying that your body can be on a different timeline, if that's the case, all you have to do is ask your body to actually catch up to the timeline that you're on now. If there has been an element of you not acknowledging things and it getting stuck, or it just, functioning in that old way, all that's required is a shifting and a purging and a releasing in order for it to be able to move with you and embody the new energy and new capacities. So, asking it to move, it will start that process. It will release things if you ask it to do, so that you can have more ease on the journey. And then, in order to kind of create more ease for yourself, if you have just timeline leaped, the more you're willing to ask questions of the universe, the more the engagement happens in a way that gives you more awareness and more ability to know how to navigate the new reality that you're in. So asking, what is it that I've chosen this timeline for? Like, what is the purpose? What's the benefit of this? How is this contributing to my life, to my growth, to my joy, to my pleasure, to the expansion of my being? Asking those questions will assist everything to kind of line up in a way that, the universe will deliver the possibilities to you. The new people will come in. Things will be able to develop and expand from that place of synchronicities with the universe, instead of there being that resistance or that kind of like push and pull type energy that can occur when you're not really sure what's going on and you're doubting yourself. So I hope that contributes to all of you. If there is, sometimes we can like go through this timeline leap and then kind of like go into this place and space where we're like missing something with regards to the old timeline. And if that is occurring for you, you just want to ask yourself, like, what is the receiving, what capacity to receive do I have that I'm in resistance to here? And how can I open that up, right? Because in the missing of the old timeline is the unwillingness to receive the new. And it may be an element of wanting to maintain that level of control. But if you do acknowledge your being and trust that you and the universe are the ones that are kind of like navigating the ship, there is no need to resist the journey, and it can be something that is more joyful and fun for you. So I hope that contributes to you guys. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave me comments. If you have any suggestions for videos, something you want me to talk about, feel free to leave those comments as well. And, you know, as always, I'm so grateful for you guys for listening to me. Thank you. And yeah, see you next time.